We are here today with SNR, head coach for Nightmare, Stage 3, third place team. So we're filming this here on Friday, the 20th, and literally like 10 minutes ago, EU started their Swiss stage. Do you generally keep up with what's happening in other regions, or do you kind of...
Yeah, like it depends on the relevancy. Like with the new patch right now, I definitely will be watching a lot of EU because that's is very new. But even like yeah, like towards the end of the season, especially, I'll watch a lot of Europe because we might have to be playing against those teams, if we go to LAN, right? So it's important to know what we're playing against. But I also just like to kind of see where the strength of the regions are at. Like I think the NA versus EU kind of like pseudo rivalry is like something that's pretty cool. So I like to always kind of like get a grasp for where EU is at and kind of see like how strong they look. But yeah, I also like just watching it for fun, like when I have time, of course. But yeah, I tend to get like watch a good amount. Yeah.
Speaking of time, like what does a typical day sort of look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the average day is a lot of the time, like, whatever, like, I'll be up kind of late, like, before I even go to bed and, like, just, like, either, like, looking at stuff or just, like, chilling in them. Like, when I wake up, I usually, and I don't really do much besides, like, start looking at review. Like, the second I get on my computer, the first thing in the morning is usually looking for review. If I don't have review scheduled for the day, then I usually am off my computer till closer to scrim time just to, like, reset. But yeah, usually around like I don't know, let's say like noonish, probably like my time is when I'll get on my computer. Like have an idea for what I want to look at and review. If I don't have an idea, then I'll just go watch literally everything and be like, okay, this is what we need to look at. And then I get the review done, get off my computer, go outside for a bit, come back, chill till scrims. Usually the days that I scrim, which is pretty much every single day, I try not to spend hours on my computer before I scrim because you get burnt out regardless of what you're doing, if it's Overwatch or not. So yeah, I mean it's pretty basic. Just get good sleep so that I'm not tired for scrims. Go get coffee usually, stuff like that.
Yeah, is Nightmare like a full-time thing for you at the moment, basically, or...
Uh, I guess the best way to answer that is it's kind of what I want it to be. Like the expectation for the team is that I'm at pretty much every single scrim. Obviously with the exception of like if I have to do something last minute or like family stuff comes up, they're going to be really cool about anyone on the team, taking a day off here and there. I definitely have the availability in my schedule if I wanted to go do other stuff during the day. But after we got back from EWC, I kind of said, like I'm gonna chill for a little bit here and just put all my time into like stage 4, and then I'll kind of gauge like where I'm at after stage 4 for like if I feel like I can take on like more, if I want to take on more like prior to or before going into scrims and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's always nice to see what people are doing outside of their esports stuff.
Yeah.
So thinking back on stage 3, one matchup that I think a lot of people were really expecting or looking forward to was you guys versus NRG, and we didn't actually get to see that. So how do you think that might have gone if you got to play, and then how do you think it might go if you go up against them here in stage 4?
So I think the best way I can answer that question is that NRG were I think the energy were strong for a couple of reasons. Not like the roster is obviously very strong, but they have like a lot of flexibility. Like they basically have two rosters where they would go like, we're gonna put Cal and attack in, and we're gonna play, and they put PG in as well. We're gonna play like Diva, hit scan, double flex, right? Like Papillary. And then if they don't have Cal or PG and attack in, they're gonna play like Winston dive with Kellen. So I think that it would have been pretty competitive for sure. I think that series really just comes down to people winning their own map picks, to be honest, because NRG are going to take you to maps where they have these specialized comps that the only practice you get against those comps is scrimming NRG, right? So you don't get a ton of practice as of last stage. So I think that would have been like a dogfight of a series. I think both of us, our teams are like really back and forth in scrims. That was definitely like the second place title match for NA. Like I don't think there's a clear winner there at all. I think it really just comes down to like who's sharper on match day. Can we adapt to their like random kind of comp picks that they have? Are they able to adapt to our counter picks, stuff like that? So obviously, I'm gonna say that I think we would have won. I'm confident we would have won, but I by no means would have been like easy. I think it would have been like a very close series for sure. And I think anyone watching all of the NA stage would probably agree with that.
Yeah, and what about looking forward into like stage 4?
I mean, this patch is we're only a few days into streaming this patch, so I don't even know if teams have 100% read on it yet. But I mean, they have a huge roster, so that can be like a good thing or a bad thing. You know, if they find
Yeah.
a core that works in this roster because they have the extra players to kind of try,
I mean,
then
so do
maybe
you.
yeah. Well, so we have a lot of players, but we kind of I think it kind of depends on like the player philosophy in your team, but we kind of like to stick with our core, and then we have like substitute players for like kind of if we really need to make these changes, but we usually really like to stick to our core
Mhm.
and make sure our core is working. We think there's a lot of strength to having 5 players that get all the synergy together. Um, but yeah, I think it just comes down to like what the patch shapes out to be. I feel like we're always going to be close with NRG, and just based on like the amount of scrims we get against each other, we're always learning from each other. So I think that series will always be close. Like I'm confident that on match day my team will always perform. We're super match day. I feel like we always play better in matches than scrims for the most part. So I'm not too worried about that. I feel like we have a really good chance of beating them, but I do expect them to be like one of the hardest games, especially on this patch. I feel like with how what I'm seeing in scrims right now, this like NRG might even be like stronger than they were last stage on this patch.
Mm. Very scary indeed. Definitely a very different roster philosophy than NRG. You're kind of, I mean, you subbed in Clear a few times to play Mauga,
Yeah.
but otherwise, Lethal and Z just sat the bench the whole time. I want to focus in on that flex support position in particular because benching Z for Cjay was sort of the one big change you made to the core roster going into stage 3, and I want to ask like why did you make that decision, especially given the context of you having worked with Z and been her coach for like a year at this point through with like all those times with the Timeless Ethereal.
Yeah. So we obviously we played LAN with Z, and Z played great. Like especially improving like stuff like Anna. Like I would talk to Z a lot, like during our boot camp and stuff, like just about little things, like hey, like try doing this next scrim. We talked about a very receptive player, and it wasn't like a thing of like, hey, we're gonna bench Z because we think Z is bad. Like we all going into stage 4, like there wasn't like, hey, we need to get a new flex support. It's like, okay, like CJ's available and we have to look at this as like an option, right? Like we're not going to ignore the option. And after discussing to the team or whatever, we kind of realized like not only was CJ we think like a top, definitely like a top flex support in NA. He's like a really chill guy and he fits into the team well. So it gives us that third flex to cover whatever reason we would need, but also like it kind of denies the opportunities as well for us to have to play against him. And he's played with Seeker, on Valiant. Urzo managed Valiant. Like we have, and people on our teams are friends with CJ, right? Like, so it kind of just made sense to be honest. And like even talking to Z about it, like I'm not going to go too in depth about it, but obviously other teams wanted to get Z after we got CJ, right? I'm not going to talk about who those were, but Z wanted to
Yeah,
stay with
I mean,
us.
I
Like,
can kind
yeah,
of imagine based on
yeah, and like it's also like Z's still playing like with the car roster and stuff, and like Z's a really big part of the team still. Like they'll help coach, like and talk to me like while we're scrimming. Like we'll have like our group chat going while we're watching scrims, and we'll just like talk about stuff. Like we'll like throw ideas at each other. So by no means is like Z not present in the team, and like they'll ring or they'll play whenever we need someone as well. Like even on like Brig, we had Z play map on Brig.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think it's more just about like it is kind of a no brainer to just get CJ, and we felt like we'd be missing a big opportunity if we didn't.
Yeah, so you don't see yourself running a lot of like double flex support necessarily.
I mean, if the patch calls for it, we will, but we're not gonna force it unless we feel like it's
Right.
necessary, right?
Like
Yeah.
NRG was like kind of doing because they felt
Yeah,
like they
energy. They
could.
like to play their own thing. That's the type of style they think works for their team, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think for us, last patch, we have a core that wants to play like, last stage Winston Tracer hit scan, for
Yeah.
example. That's a comp we did really well on LAN, or like we played like we had, Infekted or Clear subbing in and out for Maga. Like we made LAN on Maga comp. Like those are the type of comps we want to play. And then NRG is basically a new team, right? Like they kept they got like 3 new players, so there's basically a new
5.
team. 5, yeah, well, yeah, for like, yeah, exactly. It's like, of course they're going to be like just innovating and changing stuff. They have nothing that they kind of want to stick to, right? And we're just sticking to what we're good at and kind of branching off of it, right? So
Wait, no, 4.
yeah,
Yeah, I can't count. My
yeah.
bad.
Or yeah, they got 5 because they got no,
No,
it
it
was
was
4. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah, 4.
4.
Yeah,
1,
4.
2,
Yeah.
3. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I've heard people describe those pickups as Nightmare signed Lethal, Clear, and Cjay so that other teams couldn't. Does having like does having the ability to kind of wave a bag of money in people's faces give you flexibility and, you know, options that other teams don't? I feel like that seems like an obvious question, but
so there's like a yes and no to all of that. So it's not like we went into the off season talking about just, hey, we're just gonna go stealing every player. Like, I'm confident we would have got top 3 with a 5-man roster, 100%.
mm-hmm.
But it's about just like taking opportunities that make sense. The main reason for a couple of the pickups, first of all, lethal pickup, Seeker couldn't play Swiss stage.
Right.
He was in New York, so we needed someone, and it's like, hey, well, if we're gonna get someone, like, let's get someone good, right?
You weren't confident with, like, I don't know, just having clear play DPS and.
Well, we talked about it. That was a genuine discussion, but we kind of realized we kind of want to go like 9-0. Like, that'd be kind of cool, right?
Mm.
And I think that making a roster
is for like seeding or
I think
assert your dominance.
I think it's kind of like after going to WC, like we kind of want to just like do well, you know. And it's like I think getting high seeding is just important. Like I don't think by any means we wanted to have to play Toronto or NRG in the group stage. Like that's too hard for a group stage match. Let's have a chill group stage, you know. We had time. We ended up getting Timeless in our group, which is still a pretty good team. But obviously, like that match was pretty easy for us in group stage. But also like lethal. We mainly like had to get someone. Seeker wasn't there. Let's get someone good, someone who can be flexible. So if we ever need him to fill, he can fill both DPS's roles. It makes like perfect decision, right? I think Clear is like, okay, well, Clear's really good friends with the whole team. It's good to have a sub tank, and he also fills the holes for like what Infekted has not played a ton in the past, and Infekted's still learning the off tank characters. Of course, no reason not to. But you saw like we put him on like Maga and Zarya last stage. Those are characters, you know, on Flashpoint that's like his specialty. Like he was a Flashpoint demon.
Right.
So I was kind of like we just went with that. You know, it made learning a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. So that timeless match in the group stage was pretty easy for you guys. The rematch you had in the playoffs was not.
Yeah.
Why do you think that second match was so much tougher for you guys?
I'm honestly, like, to be honest, that whole day, because I think we played Fluffy Embers the same day. If I remember correctly, maybe it was. I don't remember it too correctly, but
think
maybe it wasn't
the
the
day
same
before.
day.
Yeah, I think because you played Timeless and then you played Toronto.
I honestly, like, just to put it simply, I just don't think we played amazing as a team those days. I think we were also a little bit nervous. Like, even against the Fluffy Embers match, like, we were up 2-0, and then we just decided to mirror Orisa. Like, I can't, you know, like I'm not, like, mid-map. We're not mid-map. Like, right as the map started, we're just like, okay, we're just going to mirror Orisa. Like, we haven't practiced Orisa. Why are we mirroring Orisa? You know, like, sure, we feel confident we can win, but it's like, I think we just got nervous. I think against Timeless, like, we won the first map on Malgamir, which was, like, fairly comfort for us. And then, like, I forgot what happened, but I think we went to, like, Parasio. We didn't practice Parasio, like, much. I probably played the map, like, twice in scrims. Got caught off. Now we're getting a little nervous. We lost the map.
I do want to ask, like, why would you not practice Parasio a bunch if you want to be, like, a Winston dive team?
I think it was in prep. I forget exactly what happened, but it's just
a bunch of the other teams that like were kind of maybe knew they weren't a top 4 or 5 teams, but knew okay we're good at Winston. Like thinking like Hypnos, Aoma, Timeless, they took teams to Parasio a lot.
Yeah, I remember correctly. We tried scrimming it, and like the map just felt like uncomfortable for us. Like I don't really know how else to put it. Like I think people just the map's like it's a very weird map, so I think we kind of just chalked up to like those maps we would just rather play.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we never scrimmed the map, but like leading up to that, we also hadn't practiced at all. You also saw against Toronto, we really played Ryan Bash on the Parasio attack, right? Like we just decided to try to cheese the map. So I think we just got caught off like with not as much prep for that map. We got a little nervous after dropping a map. We went to Circuit, which is our comfort, you know. We used our Ryan Bastion comp there or whatever we played, Sig Bastion, whatever type of Bastion comp we played. They had a good counter comp for it. And then like we literally talked about it like after we cap first, you know, we could just counter swap. Like our comp is insane at capping first. That's the main reason you play it. And then you can snowball if it's good. We could have just counter swap. We didn't counter swap. You know, we got stubborn. We got nervous. And then we kind of like talked after we're down 2-1, like, hey guys, like we're literally just losing to ourselves. And then the last 2 maps I would say were like pretty comfortable, right? So
yeah. That core is kind of split off in 2 different directions going into stage 4 here. Do you feel threatened at all by like the rebuilt TSM or like this rebuilt Citrus squad?
No, I wouldn't use the word threatened. Like, I think TSM made upgrades 100%. Like the roster is probably gonna be better. But I don't see a reason why we should feel threatened. I feel like that's just like bad mentality for the team. Like I think we feel motivated to beat them because these teams are trying to change their roster. You know,
Yeah.
realizing, hey, like there's a line coming up, they need to beat like us and NRG to get top 3, right? Um, so yeah, like we're just gonna keep doing our thing, right? Like I think there's no reason we couldn't. We got top 3 last stage. You know, we played Toronto twice, only lost to Toronto. You know, we didn't get to play against NRG. We want to play against NRG. Like, there's no reason to think we can't do it again. I don't think that the ceiling on like the top 3 teams is like going to be contested too much by those next teams, assuming that everyone keeps practicing and working hard. We just have to like make sure we don't slip up, you know, like we did last season. We slipped up against Timeless. That won't fly probably this season if we slip up like that again. So just can't let it happen.
Yeah. I should have probably, in all fairness, I should have probably included Fluffy in that list if they're probably on a similar-ish level. But so you go like way back with Infekted, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how would you describe the way that he's developed as a player over not just the course of this year, but over the course of the last couple of years?
So yeah, I think like I've always preached that Infected was going to be like the next big NA talent for Tank. I think a lot of people started to see that on Trick Room. That was incredible in Overwatch 2 Trick Room. But I think that like I hadn't worked, so I worked with Infected, Trick Room, Contenders Ends. There's like the break. There's a project team I start with a couple. I was like working with like Gunbird over in the off season. Infected was originally on that team. Then he ever went over to the
And
students of the
then
game.
something
Yeah.
happened that
Yeah.
oh boy.
Something happened.
I
We're
actually
not
want to
gonna-
ask you, I said,
Yeah.
how do you think that team would have performed if they competed in stage 1?
The original roster.
Well, either the. Oh, you're right, because Infekted left before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the YF,
either the original iteration of the roster or the YFP roster.
original top, I would say top 4 of stage 1. Maybe, yeah. The top 4 I think is not bad. It was like a lot of young talent.
Mm-hmm.
The announced roster, we had to throw it together last minute. No idea. We had like Mirror, Zero, Top Dragon, MCD, Magic 8-Ball, literally like one scram with that roster. I have no idea.
I remember thinking, man, Top Dragon and Zero kind of play the same characters. What's their plan here?
We were gonna play like Doom, Tracer, Echo, like that everywhere. That was That was gonna be the idea.
I mean, if you want to force that, those are 3 good players to do it with.
That was gonna be the line. But
continue. What were you saying about Infekted? Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, I worked with him a long time. Like super coachable, super willing to discuss. Really smart guy as well. Like. And then I stopped, like I said, there's the time slot where we went to like Students of the Game, NRG, and then like we get him for World Cup. And like I think that, like I said, I wasn't in NRG, so I don't know the team environment too well, but he definitely matured a lot. And he also like he was a lot more confident in his own ideas. Like I guess he was probably like because of I know his nature of being like really like adamant about giving feedback to everyone and stuff like that, which is a good thing. I'm sure he probably did that a lot of energy. So coming back in to work with him, I could definitely tell that like he was like he was like super like I mean, like he always wants to talk to people, always wants to talk about mistakes. Like he was a lot more adamant on like improving quickly. I think he was like really motivated. So I think he improved a lot. I think that he's matured a lot as well. And like when you go from like contenders to I guess what is now like the tier 1 of NA, it's like it's a lot different because when I was in contenders, I felt like I had to be a lot more of like a babysitter, I guess. With the teams, and I feel like now everyone wants to win the same amount and everyone is always at each other to improve, so it feels like I don't have to go DMing people at 2 a.m. to watch their VODs. Like I know everyone's improving, so it's been nice to see that, and I think he's demonstrated that a lot from what I've seen him in the past, and everyone on the team is doing that, so it feels really good.
Yeah, I want to close with a little hypothetical that's maybe more for me than anyone else, but it's something people like to talk about this year is, building little, different hypothetical World Cup rosters for different teams in 2024. And because you coached for Team Canada, right?
Yeah.
And whenever we get to Canada in these conversations, it always goes, okay, yeah, Seeker hit scan, got it. And then you think, okay, who do we get for a flex DPS? And it sort of goes, So I want to ask you, right, if you were building a Team Canada roster this year right now, who would you pick as that second DPS player?
Okay, so this might sound like Glaze, but this is like if I had to build the roster.
Oh, you want to do the whole roster?
Like for DPS, we can do roster. This is like conditional. So somehow, if we can convince Crimzo to come back and play support, I don't know if he would, but somehow if we can convince him, I'm pretty sure Cal got like champ 3 on DPS.
That's what you would.
I think that he got champ 3 on DPS, right?
But on like projectile DPS or
I think yeah, he put. Oh, so okay, Cal rang Tracer for us one map last stage, and he stuck Kevster on Tracer with a pulse bomb.
well, that.
So I think that's an acceptable, like I guess in quote leak.
That's really funny actually.
But he did get champ 3 in DPS, so obviously I'm not on a team with him, but I've talked to Cal enough in the past. Like I can't on the top of my head. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. I can't think of any other Canadian DPS that are in like the top like 4 of OWCS.
Yeah.
You know. So
there's some other good Canadian DPS players, but a lot of them are hit scan players.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I'm also like, like I'm not too familiar. Like I haven't really thought about it, like because there's no World Cup this year.
I just
haven't really put any time. Yeah. But that would be the first thing that come to mind. I have to look into it more. It's also like, if Crimso's not going to play flex support, we have to put Cal in flex support, right? So, yeah. That would kind of be the first thing I'd look at.
The guy from Shikigami, you could get a Graveyard. I think he's pretty good.
Oh, is he? Yeah, is he Canadian? Okay,
I think so,
okay.
Yeah. Although you would have to compete for, because I believe Commander X has said that he would try and, if this happened again, he would try and get Cal for Team UK, because apparently Cal could play for Team UK because they have like a British parent or something. So
all right, well,
the Cal bidding war. But yeah, I think we can wrap things up to a close here, unless there's anything else you want to discuss, or anyone you want to shout out.
I mean, I guess just look forward to playing Stage 4. It's been kind of cool to have like people watching our matches, so thank you to everyone that's been like watching our matches. It's been pretty fun to like see that on Twitter. It's something I'm still getting used to, so
and hopefully we'll see you in Stockholm.
I hope so. Yeah, looking forward to it for sure.
All right, bye everybody.
Thank you.